Hi, I want to take a couple minutes just to talk about the very first comic book I ever bought with my own money. When I was growing up in a small suburban community of Shirley, Massachusetts, which is about 40 miles outside of Boston, there wasn't a lot of places to buy comics. There was mm, the uh, the grocery store. There was a bookstore in the next town over, and then there was the Shirley Apothecary, which was a drugstore. And this is the main outlet that I could buy comics from. And I remember I was in Shirley Apothecary, and I knew about comics. I had read them before. The barbershop that I went to had a pile of comics, but they were mostly Kurt Swan, Superman, Carmen Infantino, Batman's, and then I had a friend whose brother collected comics, and he was a big Neil Adams fan. So there was Neil Adams Batman, Neil Adams X-Men, Neil Adams Avengers. So these are the comics that I was exposed to prior to buying my own. And so I was in Shirley Apothecary with my mother one day, and they had some comics on the rack, and I was looking through these comics, and I found one that I just had to buy. I had my own money, and I was buying this comic, and that comic was Demon number 8. Now, this comic was so different from all the other comics I had seen before. Neil Adams, Carmen Infantino, Kurt Swan, they had a really good grasp of anatomy, and so their physical forms were structured very well. But when I saw Jack Kirby for the very first time, I was I was blown away. For one thing, this was not a typical superhero book, certainly not. Another thing is Mike Royer was inking the book, and he was very true to Jack Kirby's pencils. There's a book out right now, Kirby Pencils and Inks, which shows you the pencils versus the inks, and you can see how true to the original source material Mike Royer was. But the inking and this was so dark. These heavy lines, and the physical forms were so abstracted and impressionistic. It was really kind of strange and creepy to me. And also, recently watched Phantom of the Opera, which was on Channel 5 Up All Night, which was, their late night broadcasting format. And I had seen Phantom of the Opera recently, and this character was taken right directly from Phantom of the Opera. And I said, Phantom of the Opera, this artwork is crazy. I've got to have this book. And I bought this book, and it was, part one of a story. I don't think I ever got the other part as a kid, but it was really an impressive book. I just love the form of the demon, the fact that this man could change into this demon. Was the demon good? Was the demon evil? I don't know. And I think to this day, I don't know. And that really started my first love of Jack Kirby. Now, I didn't know at the time, but Jack Kirby had based this character of the demon from Prince Valiant comic strip from the 30s. In a particular story, Prince Valiant wants to scare this noble lord into releasing Sir Galahad, and he dresses up as a demon. And this is almost exact form of what Kirby would use 40 years later. Kirby was a big fan of Hal Foster. One day I will go into that in a different video. But so this book was really my first purchase. It was also my first introduction to Jack Kirby, who I have grown to love and appreciate over the years. Although I never got any more Jack Kirby Demon, and the only time I would see the demon again was years later in Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, where he was the demon, but he kind of changed it in many respects. Later on, I would collect all those demon issues in the late 80s, early 90s. Unfortunately, I had to sell those when I moved to Idaho years ago. But they're all collected. You can find a softbound collection of all 16 issues of Jack Kirby's work that he did for DC after he finished New Gods, and he did 16 issues of this. It's a very impressive run on a book. Very gorgeous Jack Kirby later artwork with Mike Roy inking. I would highly recommend getting this collection, 16 issues. And again, this very first comic was my introduction to comic buying, for one thing, and also to Jack Kirby. And so it holds a special place in my heart. And I can't recommend the Demon Jack Kirby series enough. What was your very first comic that you bought, and how did it shape your comic buying habits, and what was so special about it that made you actually, take the money out of your own pocket, put it on the counter, and go, this is the one that I want? I would really like to know. Please leave a comment, and if you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe. Okay, thank you so much for your time.